Welcome back, guys. Today was round number 7 of the Austrian Chess Championship 2026, and I played against Valentin Baidetskyi, who is, by the way, not an international master like it says here, but he is already a grandmaster. Just FIDE did not go through with that yet, but it is going to be accepted at the next FIDE Congress. Yeah. I know Valentin quite well. We did not have that many games so far, but we are playing together in the national team. I started with knight f3 today, mixing things up a little bit. He played knight f6, c4, e6, and now I went for g3 here, which is a move order I am not often choosing. Usually if I play with g3, I play g3 on the second move. But I thought against him it would make some sense, since here he does a lot of different things, like potentially he could play also the move c5 here, and he had quite a few games with b5, which is also quite a good line. And I thought if I start with c4, then I can confuse him, because as I said, I rarely play this move order from the white side. But I was quite, I guess you can call it unlucky today. Because he came with, I think, almost 20 moves of preparation, maybe more than that, as we will see now. So I played bishop g2, and now he played d4. I don't think he ever played this. After the game, he told me that he had this line prepared already for quite some time. But yeah, I've even checked this line briefly before the game, but you know, he never played it before, and now he came with a huge preparation, even though as I said, almost never chose this move order before, which is just pretty unlucky, I would say. I even started with the move order d3 here, which is not so common. Usually white starts with short castle, but here black can play c5, and then we would get this Benoni position, which would also be an option. The point is, after d3, if black goes c5 here, then white is actually better with e4. And after knight c6, now white is in time to play the move e5, and often black runs into this, but now e5 is protected. I guess you can also do that with bishop f4. And white is better here, so black should not do that. However, after d3, it gives black this extra option of bishop b4 check. And now it is, there are a lot of chances for white to just get a combative game. There's bishop d2 or knight d2 is possible, and it leads to quite unstandard lines. Like, for example, this is one idea for white, which is possible to try. But he went for the very solid knight c6, which also Magnus Carlsen played against Jan Nepomniachtchi in their World Championship match. Short castle, bishop c5, knight bd2, short castle, knight b3. All of this is sort of theory. Black can also start with a5. This is another option. But he played this, bishop e7 back. The idea is kind of to discourage some early e3 here. I don't think that this e3 is promising much, because I guess black can just castle here. So the idea is for white to win this tempo and then go e3, d takes e3, bishop takes e3. And now he played knight g4, which I think is the main move. Black can also go for a5. This is another option. Now bishop c5. Bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, and b6, which I think is still kind of the main line. I think that black also has other options, like something like rook b8 is also possible, maybe first, like something like this I once also looked at. And now after b6, there should still be a few games, and I was spending some time here just to remember what I once looked at. And eventually, I think I recalled the whole line which I wanted to try. I think that knight h4 is an extremely rare move, but still he knew he knew everything here. White can also play something like knight b3 or going back to e4, but in general black is quite solid here. He can develop with bishop b7 next, and even if I get d4, it's you know, I have a slight space advantage, but black is extremely solid there as well. Knight h4 is kind of a concrete option. The idea is to attack g4 and to attack c6. Black, I think, has to go for knight g5. The idea is d4. Black should take on c5, d takes e5, and now I do have the better structure here. I think black should take on d1. Otherwise, if he doesn't, then I think I can go for queen a4 here, which could be unpleasant for him. And here I did spend a lot of time because I was trying to understand which rook I should take. Eventually, I think I took the right one, even though it probably doesn't really change the objective evaluation much. Bishop b7, knight f3. The idea of taking this rook now was that at some point I have ideas with knight e1. I think he played the best move also here, rook a b8. If he goes for rook f d8, I thought I could achieve something if I now go knight e1. And knight d3 is actually a big threat, and now b7 is not protected. But he played rook a b8, now b3, okay, just protecting the pawn. I don't think that rook d7 gives me anything. I guess he has a couple of different options, but it's not even clear what exactly my rook is doing here. Maybe he can just protect the pawn, maybe with this rook and then bring the king. However, I did not really even consider rook d7 much for whatever reason. It might also be a reasonable option, but I thought b3 is quite logical just to protect the pawn. But now it gave him the option, actually he didn't go rook d8 here, he went bishop a8, which I think is also a good move. Rook d8 might be possible as well, but now again I could have this option to play knight e1 here. And still now he cannot take the pawn on e5 because of back rank issues. And otherwise if I get knight d3 he could end up in trouble because the c5 pawn is pretty difficult to defend. Okay, went bishop a8 back. Now the problem is if I now go knight e1 he can just capture a pawn on e5, so I decided to go knight d2. With the idea if he takes on e5, I take and go knight e4 and I'm regaining the c5 pawn. And with the knight being quite good on c5, I still had some hopes here, but you know, it's also not so easy to win this position. He played king f8, which actually surprised me a bit because it gave me this chance to play f4. I expected him to go for g5 here, which I think is more precise, just trying to stop f4. If I play f4 now, he can take and go knight g6, and my pawn is weak. So I think this would be a bit more precise, but I also think king f8 should be fine. I played f4, knight g4, and now I repeated moves once with knight b7, rook b8, and knight c5. But then, of course, I wanted to play on. I mean, it's at least I want to do something. I don't even know what to say anymore at this point of the tournament. Like I'm actually trying to get a game, but it just feels like it's things are not working out in my favor here. If I go knight a5 here, I did not like rook b6, and now my knight is a little bit strange. If I go rook d7, I think he can just go rook c8. And if rook d1, I think he can just go king e8 here. We quickly talked about this line after the game. I mean, knight f6 is also coming back, and then my rook needs to retreat after that. I think there was one line which we talked about. We talked about c5, rook b5, and then b4. But now I'm actually seeing that here, actually knight c6 might be a very big issue because rook d8 is checkmate. But I think he can go rook a6. And if b4 now, then this idea of knight e3 should work. Attacking the rook, and knight d5 will come, and this rook on d7 is actually in quite a lot of trouble. So I decided to go back knight c5, rook d8, and now rook c1, which I think is actually a decent practical try. The idea is if he goes knight e3 now, then I can go rook e1, and he doesn't have the fork on c2. But I think he played a really precise move here with a5. If he doesn't have this move, it's not so easy for him what else he can do, because if king e7, then I might actually go knight b7 again. And if he goes rook b8, now I will go knight a5. And after rook b6, I have c5. I think this could become quite annoying for black. But after a5, now knight b7 doesn't do anything. He can even take and maybe then go a4. So I played h3, now knight e3. And here I played rook d7. This was kind of the last maybe critical moment, you could say. I did have other options as well. I was thinking about rook e1. Now knight f5, g4. I was thinking about knight h4. Valentin told me after the game that he might have played knight d6 instead, which we came to the conclusion is also probably quite solid. But here at least, you know, I have the better knight on c5, and I can maybe try to expand on the king side. It's still not going to be easy for white to break through here, but I would have been happy to reach this. My issue was that he can go knight h4. Now rook d2, and of course knight f3 is a threat. And if I go, yeah, if king f2, I thought he can go knight g6 first, was it maybe? My main line was definitely the move rook e to d1 here, and then I saw knight g6. And then I need to play f5 here. And after taking, he can go knight h4, and then the f5 pawn is weak. I thought that this position should also be equal. I will give this pawn, but I should have quite a lot of compensation because the a5 pawn is still weak. But at the same time, I also didn't think that this is really a big... it's also not a big idea to play for a win either, I thought. And yeah, what about king f2? What did I think here? Because if rook d2 check... Yeah, maybe rook d2 check is actually working. But I think also here, this was bothering me, knight g6 here. And if f5, take again, knight e7 might be possible. And probably I need to give this pawn again. Again, rook d2 is also always on the agenda. So these were my issues with the logical move rook e1. Also, if I take on d8 and then go king f2, I thought he's just very active on the d file. He can play knight f5. And if g4, I thought again he could go knight h4. And if king g3, knight g6, I think I looked at it basically until this point, and I think he can go knight e5 or knight e7, and I don't think in either case I can really play for an advantage. So I played the move rook d7. He took king e7 and now knight e5 with the idea to stop rook d8, but he has the move f6, and after king f2, take king takes e3, I offered a draw, which he accepted. If he would have taken on f4, I would have taken back with the g pawn, and then rook g1 is coming, rook g5 ideas. It's just a draw. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry that there is not more action in my games. I'm trying to get longer games and to get a fight, but today it was just not possible with my opponent being very well prepared and entering a line which he never played before. And so therefore the drawing streak continues. I don't know what else to say, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you still enjoyed this recap, even though there was not much to say. Hopefully, at least in the 2 remaining rounds, I'll be able to do something. And yeah, apart from that, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.